Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwe. We'll start off today with our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation. Please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us right here in our studios Tochukwu Ezukanma. He is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so very much, Tochukwu, for being here.
Well, thank you so very much for having me.
Yes, it's been a while, though.
It's been a while.
Yes.
And since you decided not to invite me.
Because it's very important to know that, Tochukwu is one of those, pioneers that started Enterprise Television with us, and one of those earliest guests that we had here. And it's been great having him once more. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much. I'm very glad to be back. I've always been around.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm back to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you so very much once more. All right, so let's kickstart today with the first daily on our desk, and that's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. We have a laundry list of interesting stories here. Yellow Water, a massacre, what Benue people expected from President Tinubu. And right above the story, we have what I will tell Tinubu if I meet him, and that's from Mike Okonkwo, a bishop. Of course, he celebrated his 80 years as a great Nigerian and equally a man of God. But let's take a look at all the matters here. A civil war. Gowon should apologize to Igbo for dumping our Buri Accord. And that's coming from Senator Ume. Mr. Tochukwu, let's talk about this matter. It's been close to 3 decades now after the Nigerian Biafran Civil War. The scars are still written all over. Of course, one cannot distill what exactly might be the solution that might make the Southeasterners totally erase that memory from their hearts and their minds. But asking General Gowon to apologize to Igbo for going against the Buri Accord, speak to me. Do you think there's a sense in it?
Well, fundamentally, there's some fundamental misunderstanding of the whole thing, because Gowon implemented the Buri Accord. It's just that he didn't implement it word for word as Ojukwu wanted. Primarily, let us understand that the Buri Accord was not an agreement between Ojukwu and Gowon. It was an agreement between the federal government and the regional governments and all the members of the Supreme Military Council. So, after the Buri Accord, Gowon returned home and consulted his advisors, which every sane leader will do. And the advisors had problems with 2 clauses of the agreement. One that said that every region can secede at will, and one that said that federal government under no circumstance can impose a state of emergency in any region, which literally means that the regions are independent. The federal government has no control over them, and they can secede at will.
Wow.
So the advisors say that if you want to retain Nigeria as a corporate body, cancel these 2, or Nigeria will disintegrate the next minute. All the signatories to the Buri Accord accepted Gowon's Decree 8.
And which is?
This Decree 8, which is the implementation of the Buri Accord.
Okay.
But Ojukwu insisted that those 2 clauses is removed must remain. Okay?
Okay.
Ojukwu's advisors, including Hilary Njoku, including his secretary, Enyuaban, advised him to accept Decree 8 because Gowon has gone more than far enough. But since it was the Biafran propaganda, Ojukwu's press machinery that controlled information in Biafra, they lied to us that Gowon did not implement the accord. But Gowon implemented. If you doubt me, Google Decree 8. Decree 8 will tell you that Google will tell that Decree 8 was the implementation of the Buri Accord. But the masses, like I was telling you earlier, do not think. They follow, and they follow blindly. So many Igbos, even the supposedly knowledgeable, supposedly educated, a senator in the House, because he does not read, they say, if you want to hide anything from a black man, write it in a book. We don't read. He believed the lie that he was told in Biafra. And that's what he's still venting. That's what he's still talking about. Gowon has no apologies to the Igbos. He owes the Igbos no apology. And I'll tell you why.
Please do.
Gowon made the point repeatedly. My colleagues and I will go anywhere in search of peace, as long as nobody tries to dismember Nigeria. If you try to dismember Nigeria, I will fight you. So Gowon made it clear. If you try to secede, I will fight you. It was clear. And history had demonstrated, history has given us the instructive precedents that secession anywhere must lead to war. There was a secessionist attempt in the US. They had the American Civil War. There was an attempt in Congo. There was a war. In Sudan, there was a war. In Ethiopia, there was a war. In Vietnam, there was a war. So history has established that if you want to secede, better be prepared for war.
But the USSR, they all went their separate ways without no bullets.
They agreed to.
Okay.
It was not one group unilaterally trying to secede.
Okay.
In Yugoslavia, they agreed to. So if Nigerians decide to go their separate ways, there will be no war.
Okay.
But as long as one ethnic group keep trying to secede on its own, it will always result in war and violence and death. So when Gowon, Ojukwu seceded, he knew what he was in for. And Gowon fought the Igbos, the secessionists. And at the end of the war, Gowon did one thing that was outstanding. It may have been the first time in the history of humanity when a conqueror, instead of lording it, ruthlessly lording it over your defeated enemy, trying to extract your pound of flesh from him, you reached out to him and say, there is no victor and there is no vanquished. I don't think it has ever happened in the history of humanity.
But if that is the case, why is it that the average Igbo man still feels a little bit of that ghost, going about him? And
I'll tell you why. At the end of the war, Biafra surrendered unconditionally. Okay? So the federal government owed us nothing. At the end of the war, my family came from Olu. Our last place of refuge in Biafra returned to Enugu. The truck, the lorry that brought us, dumped us in front of what used to be Kingsway on Okpara Avenue. We were broke and broken. The next day, my father, who was a civil servant, went to his ministry, Ministry of Local Government. They gave him a salary advance of 1 month. That was what they did for all the civil servants in the Eastern region. So what would have been a calamitous kind of hunger, period of hunger, poverty, that 1 month salary allowance advance mitigated it. Through that, you introduce millions of pounds. Then we counted our money into pounds in the economy of Eastern region by giving civil servants advance payment. The economy started booming. People could buy books for their children. Tenants could pay rent to their landlords. Igbos would not see that. Gowon came and gave us 20 pounds for whatever you deposited. My father was so broke, he deposited nothing.
But he was still giving 20 pounds? Or it was those that deposited before the war?
We are mixing things.
Okay.
He was giving his salary advance. Everybody employed by the government of Eastern region got his salary advance.
Okay.
Those that worked for the federal government, it took a longer time for them to reorganize themselves. They have to go to Lagos, the bureaucracy and all that. But then the Biafran pound, the Ministry of Finance said, deposit your Biafran pounds into the bank. For everyone that deposited his pounds into the bank was given 20 Nigerian pounds. So if you deposited 1 Biafran pound, you got 20 pounds. If you deposited 100,000 Biafran pounds, you got 20 pounds. The Igbos keep lamenting, complaining, but you surrendered unconditionally. There's nothing that said that the federal government should pay you for your worthless piece of paper, your money. And those that did not operate their accounts in Biafra, you had your savings and loan, you ran from Enugu, You didn't operate that savings and loan account while you were in village because you ran away from Enugu. Got their money in full. Nene Nwodo said that what set his family up after the war was the £6,000 his father had at Barclays Bank that they did not, as savings, they did not operate during the war, that they got it back in full. My uncle, my mother's senior brother, died during the war. Okay. And the wife, armed with his bank papers, went to ACB to get the money the husbands had in savings account in full. Igbos won't talk about that. Because of the lingering grip of the Biafran propaganda on our minds. What was the Biafran propaganda? You are hated. There's a design to wipe you out. Everybody hates you. You better fight. If you lose this war, there's a master plan to kill every Igbo man, which was nonsense. As the war ended, the federal forces did not occupy Igbo land. They didn't take our land. They didn't convert us to Islam.
They withdrew.
They withdrew. And lives continued. So all the Ojukwu's propaganda was falsehood. But because the masses don't think, they followed. And that propaganda still has a hold on our minds. There's nothing you do for the Igbo man to appease him. Go on, go on, go on. What did Gowon do? If you secede, there will be a war. In wars, soldiers kill each other across the divided land. And bombers and fighters bomb and strafe civilian positions. And people starve to death. Every war you look at today, you see people starving to death. People are starving to death in Syria, in Yemen. Everywhere there's war, people are starving to. So why did you expect your enemy to feed you? So we have these unrealistic expectations. And until we get them out of our minds, we'll remain there. We can't get them out of our minds easily. One, the Igbo elite that know better don't want to speak. Because if you speak, they say you're Sabo, you're a sellout, they've bought you, you are Hausa Fulani slave. So they're afraid of speaking. The masses themselves cannot read. If you read, you get the facts of what happened. So we remain in this, our quagmire. But Gowon owes the Igbos no apology. There was a war caused by Ojukwu's secession, and he fought the war for an ideal to unify Nigeria, for Nigerian unity. Nigeria has a lot of problems, but I remain unapologetically, unrepentantly a one-man Nigerian man.
Very, very true. Because it's very important that we understand, you know, where we're coming from, because that gives us that gusto to know where we are going to. Because if you must fight, of course you have to be ready. You have to have everything all sorted out in order for you, to make it a great one. But let's take a look at other matters here. Why some Borno top politicians want Shetima replaced as a vice president? Mr. Ezukanma, you know there's this growing call right now, though it's very subtle, but there's this growing call to replace Shetima possibly as the vice president. There have been lots of people who have said he has no electoral vote value because he was beaten very, very well from the northeast. Borno, Atiku took over the whole region. So do you really think Shetima has no economic value?
I don't know. I'm not a politician. So I am not privy as to what is happening in politics, especially Borno politics. I don't even understand Anambra politics. So how could I go trying to analyze Borno politics? But my concern is that this administration has been the worst we've ever had. It's the APC progressively has produced very bad presidents. We voted against Jonathan. I campaigned against Jonathan within my very limited means. I was very pro-Buhari for a number of reasons. But then Buhari came, the man damaged everything. He said he was going to fight corruption, revamp the economy, and then secure Nigeria. He failed in every respect, okay? And we thought it was the worst we've ever had. Then Tinubu came. Wow. Tinubuism, Emilokoism. That's the worst we've known. And Buhari at least pretended to be concerned. But Tinubu shows this indifference, this this asphyxiating indifference. You can go to hell. The arrogance of power. Those days he came to power, there was 120. His convoy from the airport to his house was 120 of the most luxurious cars in the world. In a country where people are dying from hunger, in a country where there's been a revenance of Kwashoko. I saw Kwashoko in Biafra. It's not unusual to see Kwashoko in a war situation. There's hunger, there's starvation. But this coming back of Kwashoko in Nigeria, an oil wealth country, it boggles the mind. It makes you want to cry. But those in authority don't even care. Look at his son strutting around, you know, acting as though he is the king of kings, pontificates more than the pontiff. Considering the backdrop, the economic backdrop of this country, then it leaves a lot to be desired. Shetima himself, even when we started parading him as the vice president, this is personal. He never struck me. There's no aura of, there's no style, no class.
No finesse.
No, that's the word, yeah. No finesse about
finesse in him.
He carried himself like some local, thuggish head of the Aburos. You know? There was this look of meanness on his face. Nothing about him was appealing, you know.
Literally, he was often begged to laugh or to smile.
As though he's an evil man, and the evil was being made evident in his facial expressions, you know. I don't think this administration likes him that much. The administration, to start with, they are not very comfortable with him. And he's a very ambitious man who had in the past used violence to achieve his aims in Boronu. But whatever they are doing is normally to serve the personal interest of the power elite. Has nothing to benefit it's not designed to benefit the man on the street. So whether they retain him, they remove him, the status quo remains the same. The mindset of the power elite remains the same. They continue to deploy their power as a ruthless enemy of the people, and that will not change whether Shetima is there or not there.
Very true. Let's move to the Saturday Punch for a while, and from domestic issues, maybe let's crisscross international for a bit. Israel-Iran war. Stranded Nigerians cry for help from underground shelters. We have two riders to that. We can't sleep at night because of flying missiles. The federal government awaits border clearance to evacuate over 100 citizens. Now, before we even talk about Nigerians who are stranded there, let's take a look at Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu. We do not know, for the first time in a very long time, Christians who are sympathetic to the Israeli cause are beginning to back out on that sympathy they have, because it's more like a Benjamin Netanyahu assault than an entirety of the Israeli nation going against what they feel is wrong. Speak to me on that.
Well, Nigerian Christians have been very sympathetic to the Israelis for religious reasons, and people think that the Jews that live in the Middle East had been living there from the days of David and Solomon. It's been a continuum, which is not true. In the year AD 70, the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, conquered the Jews. You see that they were showing Jesus the head of Caesar in a coin, because Israel was under Judea, and Israel were under Roman Empire. Those days before independence, the head of the queen was on our coin.
Very well.
Yes. And so it was the head of the Caesar controlled the place. The Pontius Pilate said, "I have nothing to do with this man." Who was Pontius Pilate? The Roman governor of Judea. So they were under Roman rule. They consistently kept rebelling against the Romans, and the Romans at a point destroyed the whole place, drove them away, AD 70. So they wandered around Europe for nearly 2,000 years. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration, the British foreign minister, I think it was Arthur Balfour, promised the Jews, if you help us fight Germany and defeat Germany, we'll give you a homeland in Palestine. There was a man who had brought up the idea earlier, Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl was a journalist. I think he lived in France. But the Jews had no homeland. They were all over Europe, all over North Africa, and later US, and in the Soviet Union. Yes. So Theodor Herzl thought about the Jews returning to Palestine. He started that campaign. Nobody paid him any mind. So he himself was dejected. And one night after campaigning and talking, and people were laughing at him like, is this man out of his mind? He wrote in his diary, they say that I am a noise maker. I am making noise. But after all, what is history? History is the noise of arms and advancing ideas to console himself. I am a noisemaker, but in the end, history is noise of arms and advancing ideas. So in 1917, Balfour brought up the same issue. We will give you a homeland if you help us fight the Germans. After the war, the British won and ignored that promise until 1945, when Hitler did a number on the Jews in Europe, killed 6 million of them. It stirred the conscience of the world, and the world rallied to give Israel a homeland somewhere. That's when they returned to Palestine.
But historically, where were they originally before the Roman Empire destroyed?
They were in their land now. They were in Jerusalem. They were in Bethlehem.
Which
they
is
were in
still,
Jericho.
Which is the occupied, which the Palestinians occupied, I would love to believe, because of their absence.
After they left, we are told that the Igbos have lived in their present location
the Jews.
For the last 900 years. Who was here when we moved in?
Oh, okay.
Maybe nobody. Or a few people we could assimilate or take over. So now you come back and tell the Igbos, some people lived here 2,000 years before you came. Would Igbos accept it?
No,
so
no,
the Palestinians resisted the establishment of Jewish state, but they were forced out. 750,000 were displaced to set up the Jewish state. And naturally, in there, we no go agree, we no go agree. The Jews kept fighting them and kept occupying more land. So to moderate Jews, we want a two-state, but a two-state solution. You have the Jews, you have your homeland, leave the Palestinians to have their land. To the extremist Jews who will take over the whole place, is our biblical patrimony, is what God gave to our father Abraham, is our inheritance. So they want to take over the whole of Palestine. And to do that, you have to massacre the Palestinians, take their land. So you occupy the whole area and you treat them like trash. Bishop Desmond Tutu, who fought apartheid in South Africa, said that his visit to the Middle East, to Palestine, and with what the Jews are doing to the Palestinians, reminded him of apartheid in South Africa. Okay? So that's where they are. Christians don't know that to the Jews, that Christianity is idolatry. When you say that a man, Jesus Christ is God, to the Jews, what kind of nonsense is that? The Jewish boy from wherever is your God? Are you insane? Second, the Christians say that God is three, all part of one. To the Jews, God is one. And when you have more than one God, it's idolatry. So to the Orthodox Jews, Christians don't even know what they are doing. They're a band of confused, idolatrous group of human beings. But because it gives them a lot of money, they encourage Christian pilgrims into their area. So many Christians, what is happening in Palestine is touching a lot of hearts. The mass murder of the innocent.
Because it's like a reverse. Ironically, is looking like what was meted out on the Jews. It's what the Jews are doing right now to the Palestinians.
Yeah, what's that? Because Hitler targeted the Jews, murdered them individually. But the Jews are murdering the Palestinians and destroying everything that is Palestine, destroying their cities, just bombing them back into the pre-Stone Age. You see? And then they carried it into Iran. Israel has the power, the military capability to defeat all the Arab nations put together. Iranians are not Arabs, they are Persians.
Yeah,
but even if you add the Iranians to the equation, the Jews will defeat all of them put together. But I like what Iran is doing. It has shattered the myth of Jewish invincibility.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
You can't penetrate.
You can't penetrate the Iron Dome, the Lion Sling, whatever it is.
So it has shattered it. And you have taken the war for the first time in a long time to the Israelis. Let them feel it.
Yes, exactly.
Destroy their buildings, kill their citizens. The Jews have never for once wanted peace. You know, you have the Labour Party and you have the Likud coalition. The Labour Party is the more liberal Jewish group. The Likud coalition, the more radical Jewish group. That's why that most people that genuinely want to make peace with the Arabs were from the Labour Party, Gowon, Amaechi, and the rest of them, Labour. Okay? The differences between them are obvious, but it's beyond the scope of this discussion. So the Jews never wanted peace until Yasser Arafat, Anwar Sadat fought them in 1973 and killed 2,000 Israeli soldiers. In the past, it was a walkover. You devastate the Arabs, kill thousands of them, capture their land, and maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 Israeli soldiers would die. It was the first time that Gowon and Amaechi wanted peace. And then there was that peace between Egypt. Some say they bought Egypt over. And without Egypt, no Arab nation can really fight Israel. So with that peace with Israel, it's like they bought the peace of the area. But now Iran is showing, it is twisting her muzzle. Let them defeat Iran. Let them kill 10 Iranian to 1 Israeli. But the point has been made. Israel, you are not infallible. You are not a special kind of humanity. You are not being held by God against every other person. The thing in the Middle East that America has a policy that in every war, Israel can have a quick victory. Because if the war becomes protracted, Israel has more to lose.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, so you have 6 million persons. Iran has about
100 and something million.
You have just this small land area. Iran has such a large area. Space. So kudos to the Iranians. I don't like their kind of government and his narrow-minded and his political intolerance. But let them fight Israel. Let them show the world that Israel is not a special entity. Very
true. It's actually so funny. Yesterday I read, where the Israeli minister was stating that Iran was committing act of genocide on Israelis, and I'm wondering, what have they been doing all the while to the people of Palestine? Gaza. That they were actually disturbing places where Israeli children slept, and I'm wondering, they are only merely disturbing while you've been killing kids, of the Gaza.
They should strike such targets, penetrate them, and massacre the children, because they've been massacring the children of Gaza, Palestinians, for so long.
Very true. What goes around comes around, ladies and gentlemen, and the truth of the matter is, war is not a great thing, So anyone who seeks to desire it actually does not know or might not have experienced the after effect of war and what goes with it. Peace is invaluable. It's something that every country, every individual must definitely look for. But that's all we have for this segment. And just to let you know that my guest will be here to take us on our main conversation. That is when we return. New party emerges. That in a bit, the Still Enterprise Weekend. Please don't go anywhere.